Okay, hello there. So, as you can see, I'm trying the customary YouTube background. I have a plant in the background and I'm all dressed up. So, a few weeks ago, I was on a flight and for multiple reasons, my brain was buzzing with ideas and memories and a lot of things. And normally I have a superpower which involves sleeping as soon as I sit in a moving vehicle of any kind. So yes, I can sleep on flights. But this was unusual. I couldn't sleep. I was on a flight and I had a lot of ideas. So I took out my notebook. So I carry a small, this is my favorite notebook, and this is not sponsored, but Muji, if you want to sponsor, you can sponsor this video. This is just the perfect size. And the papers are nice. I love writing in this. So I had this with me, so I started writing. And there were a lot of ideas and I made some mind maps. Yeah, and just a heads up, this might be a long video as long as my camera storage space lasts. I'll continue filming. So if you want a faster speed, you can play it at 1.5x or 1.25x. So I thought about the question, what did you want to be when you were a child? And I wrote about it. And so I went back to childhood and reflected on what was it that I wanted to be. And this I know that for a long time, I never really had any specific aspirations in childhood about being something in particular. So after digging into my memory, I started noticing or remembering things that drew me, things that captured my interest, or things I would indulge in a little more than other things. So the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about childhood aspirations is like, I think I was very little, maybe 5 years old, and I remember seeing a magazine with like a picture of ballerinas on the cover. And at that stage in life, you really don't know about growing up and aspirations and dreams, but yeah, I remember that sort of stayed with me. And throughout my life as a side activity, I've made several incomplete attempts at learning different kinds of dances. I still have 2 left feet, but I'll keep trying. So yeah, so ballerina was probably this vague notion that I had. And then I remember being fascinated with ships as a child. So we used to do cross stitch in school, and I remember the design that I chose probably in grade 3 was to draw a ship, sort of stitch a ship into the canvas. And I remember wanting a birthday cake with a ship design. So there was a fleeting fascination with ships. And then I recall in middle school, I used to keep clippings from the newspaper. In the newspaper at that time, there used to be a section on health and science. And I remember filling like about at least 2 registers with those clippings. I'm not sure I even read them fully, but I just liked collecting them. And so that was another thing I did. At some point, I think it was in grade 8, so you're around 13 years old, 12, 13 years old, I became very fascinated with astronomy and space. And at that time, my father's office was very near the British Library. And so So yeah, and so I used to go to the British Library. I came across all these encyclopedias about space, and I had a small notebook even then, in which I started, for some random reason, taking notes about the different planets in the solar system, their surfaces, their atmosphere, the names of all their moons, the surfaces and the atmosphere of the moons. Very detailed notes for no particular reason. And I also learned to spot a few constellations in the sky. I can still see Orion wherever I go. I can still see the Big Dipper. So yeah, so that was another phase. I think that lasted at least 2 years. And around the same time, there was a library in my father's office also. So there was one outside and one in his office. And yeah, it's a whole story about why I kept going to my dad's office. So yeah, so there was an encyclopedia of like medical conditions. I think it was a Reader's Digest publication, which also, you know, I used to read in my spare time there. And yeah, one of the things I did while reading that encyclopedia was diagnosing all my family members with mental health conditions while I was in I think I was just in like grade 8 or grade 9. And I even remember going to my mother and telling her, I think this one has this one has this one has this. So so this, I think, probably was where a more sort of a better defined interest started emerging, I guess, and which was in psychology. And but at that time, the way the educational system was structured, psychology was considered an arts subject, and if you were reasonably good in studies, it was assumed you would take the sciences, which involves chemistry, physics, maths, biology, computer science. Yeah. So I liked physics, at least till the 10th grade. Then it was a downhill sentiment. I really liked maths. I liked biology. I did not like chemistry at all. And I don't understand people who like chemistry. Do you like chemistry? Like, why? And in the arts, I loved psychology, even though I didn't have a clear picture at that stage what it meant. I also liked some elements of history then, some elements of geography. So there were other things also I liked, right? But I had to choose. There wasn't much flexibility. So I chose the sciences. Even within that, I had to fight to get maths along with biology. And the teacher said, oh no, it's very difficult. You can't take both maths and biology. But anyways, I did. Okay. So now we are in grade 11 and 12. And what started happening was the physics class would coincide with the psychology class. And I occasionally, whenever I could, I started skipping the physics class and attending the psychology class sitting in the back, to the extent that I would help the psychology students with understanding their subject or preparing for exams. So this was basic psychology, like id, ego, superego, and some experiments and things like that. You know, and then I did enjoy computers, but we were basically learning BASIC and Windows, etc. We hadn't moved into like other kinds of programming like C++. So yeah. I was self-teaching myself HTML at that point. So I learned how to make websites on my own and did a little bit of experimentation on that in my free time. So I started considering in the back of my mind at that point in grade 11 and 12 that I could go on to do psychology, but I never really verbalized it to my parents, I think. And the natural trajectory for somebody like me would be to go into medicine, right? And then at some point along in 11 or 12, I came to know that psychologists can't prescribe medicine, and there's a subspecialty called psychiatry. So then I thought, okay, maybe medicine makes sense. So in short, that's how medicine came to be. But before I would enter medical school, I would end up at a course for information technology. And I think I will stop this video now and see how it's turned out, and then talk about coaching classes and how I ended up studying abroad for medicine, and then how things changed after that in the next video. If anything resonates with you, please do share. What were your earliest memories of things that drew you? Little hobbies and interests on the side as a child? Did you have some very clear idea of what you wanted to be even as you were a child, or were these like very vague notions? Where have you ended up? Is it similar to what you had imagined, or have you ended up on a track which is very different? Do share how it's been for you. Thank you so much.